Thanks everybody for joining us today. You're here with Sales Intel and PFL on how to create remarkable brand experiences in 2021. So you have with us, I'm Jason Hubbard. I'm Vice President of Partnerships and Alliances, and excited to have Sam Yarber here from PFL. Sam, welcome.
Thanks for having us. We're excited to be here.
So Sam's Director of Strategic Alliances at PFL. PFL has been one of our longest running and best partners, and I've known Sam and her husband for quite a while now. So always excited to get to do something with this team. Quick agenda today. So we're going to talk briefly about how to implement strategies in your 2021 strategy. Talk about the importance of personalization and timing in your campaigns, and how to use data and direct mail to align sales and marketing. To get started, we're going to talk really briefly about sort of what's the state of marketing right now. Unless you've been on a desert island someplace, a lot's changed in the last year or so. Across the board, but marketing in particular, sales as well, have really been upended in a lot of ways. And this is a great graph that you put in here, Sam. It really well encapsulates what most of us have seen, as well as the studies have backed up, which is, as COVID hit, as all of this uncertainty hit, as it became harder to get in touch with people, as in-person meetings, in-person events got shut down, everybody's reaction to that and everybody's way to shift focus and shift strategy was let's double down on volume and activity, in particular email and phone calls. And so that's what this graphic from HubSpot study really exemplifies is volume of email sends, volume of outbound communication went way up. And not really shockingly, your response rates went down. So you've got more noise out there, more people doing more stuff, which of course makes it harder to break through that noise and get people's attention and get them to respond. I know that's certainly something that we saw internally, and something we're really going to spend a lot of time on with this. People ask me, especially in these webinars and stuff like that, like, what do you suggest, or what is the fallout of this? And for the most part, I think the response is things didn't really change as far as what you should be doing. Everybody should be following the same best practices. You should be personalizing, segmenting, customizing, creating solid content, doing value add whenever you're doing your outreach. The difference is it's become a whole lot less forgiving if you're just doing a spray and pray approach. You're not being targeted. You're not putting in that time and that effort. And so, I've definitely seen that on my side, both what we're doing internally as well as customers that we're talking to. Assume you've seen a lot of the same on your side, Sam.
Oh, absolutely. Even from a consumer standpoint, I mean, my inbox is just completely blown up. And I do love this chart because this is basically, it says as of November of last year, sales emails were up 74% from the pre-COVID baseline. So that's just astronomical. I mean, I think we can all feel that, the way that we're being marketed to, the struggle that we're having getting in touch with people. And then the response was down to 33% from that pre-COVID basis. So yeah, I mean, ways that we can truly make an impact. And as you mentioned, personalization is key. It's an expectation, honestly, from consumers now. So how can we really deliver that and make sure that we're giving them what they want?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen more and more where people's reactions to, just templated stuff, sending out in blast, where like it's really clear that's what you're doing. Like that's gone from something that was like an annoyance or something people would just ignore to people like straight up getting pissed off about it, and like even going so far as to call people out on social media and stuff like that. I mean, it's like, it went from like a best practice to like, you better be doing it. And I think, what we've seen as far as volume and stuff like that has just accelerated a lot of that. So, this one's obviously close to our heart here at Sales Intel, but it's obviously, or it should hopefully be obvious to most people, data is really essential to being able to tackle this. So one, you've got to have enough data to feed these campaigns, so that you're targeting net new people. You've got enough people feed into it, because While you have to have obviously multi-touch campaigns, and it takes a lot of touches, arguably even more touches now than it did a year ago to get people to respond. I certainly hope most people's reaction to this is not to triple or quadruple the number of touches they're doing for people, which I'm sure for a lot of people has been. But so one, obviously you got to have enough, enough people to feed into your campaigns. But the other key to it is obviously in order to do segmentation, customization, stuff like that, you've got to know the things to be able to do that segmentation, customization around. So those are things like firmographics, information about the company. So where are they located, company size, number of employees, industry that they're in, technographics, what's their technology footprint, what tech stack are they employing. Intent data, intent can be both what you're seeing internally. So are they visiting your website? Are they filling out forms? Are they opening emails? Are they clicking on links? As well as external through third parties like Bombora, who we partner with, which look at, how are you actually engaging with content across the web, as well as persona filters, like, title, job department, job level, who are they reporting to, who reports to them, that type of stuff. And this allows you to not only segment, but be able to do it at scale, because you can segment at different tiers. You can look at segmentation at the company level, which allows you to obviously segment really broadly and be able to customize your content there. You can segment at the persona level. So what are pain points or talking points specific to people in those roles or those titles? And then you can segment all the way down to that individual person. But obviously those higher tier ones are ones, if you've got good data, and this is the other piece of it, if your data is not reliable, obviously all that segmentation and customization you're doing is going to be mostly for naught, because now you're sending customized content to the wrong people at the wrong companies. And so, should go without saying, but obviously data is key with all of this. And I know you guys see that whenever, you've got people trying to do sending campaigns on your side.
Totally. Well, and I think you hit it on the head earlier. It's like if your data isn't accurate, and it almost hurts you more than helps you by sending these things. Like if you send, in our world, a great kit to a C-suite person and it's got the wrong name, the wrong info, whatever, then that's not going to help you. So having this upfront discussion and making sure your data is accurate is paramount to having successful marketing campaigns.
Yep. Cool. So talk about some of the lessons you guys have learned and best practices around these brand experiences.
Sure. Well, I think first and foremost, as we saw, we're all just getting inundated with, digital ads, emails, what have you. So at PFL, we create remarkable brand experiences for our customers. So what does this mean? Well, it means highly personalized, memorable experiences. So as Jason just discussed, having your data correct to make sure that personalization is accurate is first and foremost the most important thing. But I mean, just think about, I hate to admit it, but because of me, we probably get a package every day that I ordered. So I even know what's in it, and yet it's still really exciting to like go downstairs, see a package at the front door and open it. And so that's kind of the experience that we deliver for your customers, but with your brand attached to it. And it's just an extension of hopefully what you're doing in all your other marketing venues. So it's orchestrated with what you have going on, using the data that you've pulled to just further the engagement you have with your customers. So we can go ahead and go to the next one.
Sure.
And talk about like how this actually works. So first and foremost, I think Jason kind of touched on this, but you can segment your data in so many ways, and that's amazing. But I think as a marketer, it's really important to understand who you're talking to and get very, very clear on that. So who is your ideal customer? Where do they work? What do they do? Making sure you understand those personas and then having the data to back that up is the first thing. And then two, as Jason mentioned, like instead of just batch and blast, like those days are over. As we get those those touches and those messages as consumers, it's a little annoying, quite frankly, doesn't help your brand. So where are they in the buying journey? Where is your customer? Do they know a lot about you? Do they know nothing about you? And is your message catering to them? I think is super important. And then orchestration too. I mean, I think we fit in very well with your current marketing campaigns. So if you're sending out a bunch of emails and it's working and you're getting a lot of return on that, then that's amazing. Keep doing that. If you're sending out a lot of digital touches and you're not getting that response, that would be a great place to send a direct mail piece. So one thing that we really focus on is making sure that you get a great return on your investment through direct mail. And that means understanding the data, understanding how your customers are engaging with what you're sending, and then filling in the blanks and increasing that engagement where we can do so. Let's
Yeah, and
see.
I think what
Yeah.
you talked about is absolutely key, especially during, I mean, it's always key, but especially with what we've seen lately is, look at your data and
Mhm.
look at your success rates, try a lot of things. I mean, we did a webinar last week that really dug into the impact of, in-person events, basically going to the wayside for the last year and, probably the better part of this year. And the biggest takeaway from that was companies that tried like one alternative saw no benefit. And oftentimes it was worse than not doing anything.
Mhm.
Versus companies that tried like 3, 4 plus different things to replace those in-person events saw the biggest impact and biggest positive impact. So yeah, absolutely across the board. Like experiment, try things, and then obviously look at what's working and what's not with that.
Yeah, and I actually kind of enjoyed that this year. I know that's scary for marketers to kind of stick their neck out and try new things, but we saw some really creative ideas come out of this, and I love that. I mean, I think it pushed us to think differently than, okay, let's just have another trade show or whatever. Like, how can we truly engage people? And I think that's exciting. And then you touched on this earlier, but one thing, I mean, first name and last name, that's expected now, and hopefully you get that right, because if you get that wrong, that that's a hard thing to overcome. But I think you can also personalize so much further than that. You mentioned firmographic data and demographic data, and one example that we like to use is if you're sending a piece, whatever it is, quite frankly, I mean, hopefully it's direct mail, but if it's, if you're sending to a senior citizen who lives in California, you probably don't want the imagery to be a 22-year-old doing a backflip off of Denali in Alaska. Like, those two things just don't relate, but you can really personalize down to that specific level. So time to understand your data, who you're talking to, and then how you can speak directly to them, I think is so important right now.
Yeah, that's, if we've got a little time at the end, maybe we can hit on some of our fails that we've done in these campaigns. But those are always fun. I've had a few on my end. Cool. Ready to go to the next one?
Yeah.
All
So I
right.
just wanted to quickly walk through what this means, what to send when. So this is an example of what to send at the top of the funnel. I love this one because we're not shaking hands right now, but this is maybe we'll make do. But it's a low cost piece. It's very personalized. That little card behind the hand, is a custom note. And then it comes with a collapsible coffee cup and some Via Coffee, let's meet for coffee. This is a great way to get in front of people with a low cost option. So this would be your one-to-many kind of thing. So we can go to the next one. I think this one's really cool. So one of the things we really focus on is it's not only what you send, like what's in the package, but it's the message that goes along with it. So this is data security. So we're talking about data. We love to keep it secure. But this is an engaging way to really kind of show that you need us. Like what you could potentially miss out on is not good. So this is, you take the pen, it got the blue light on it, you can see the message. This is a little bit more of a higher cost piece, but great for mid-funnel people who've already engaged, just to kind of pull them along a little further. And then go to the next one. So this one's kind of fun. Um, for me, again, personalization. I'd love it if you sent me a bottle of bubbly wine and 2 wine glasses. But like, send this along with your contract as you're signing customers on. Like, hey, pop this bottle of bubbly. Let's cheers to working together, sign this contract, and move through, or and keep this partnership going forward. So those are just some really, high level examples of what to send when, but we're not always talking just postcards or big boxes. There are things to send along your customer's journey throughout the whole thing, and again, making them personal.
Yeah, and I think that's super, super important, and a piece that we didn't hit upon whenever we were first talking about segmentation and customization. So everybody thinks about like being able to segment and customize your and target your content, your outreach around, things that I talked about, company level stuff, persona level stuff, demographics, intent. But it's also crucially important to also break that up as far as where they are in the funnel,
Mm-hmm.
what type of content, and keep that contextual, because stuff that you send somebody at the bottom of the funnel is oftentimes going to land flat if you send it too far up. Also, as you hit upon, oftentimes stuff you're sending towards the bottom of the funnel has more cost involved in it. So you don't want to be
Yep.
spreading that super, super wide. And then vice versa, like stuff designed for the top of the funnel, somebody that's been engaged with you and been talking with you, and then it's further down that funnel, like that content's going to really miss the mark with them. And so whether you're sending that direct mail or whether you're sending that digitally, whatever, it's really important to map that customer user journey along that and figure out, what is going to connect at that point, but also crucial to it, like how is that going to play into moving them to that next step.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more than just hey, what's going to be really good content at this stage, but what's going to prompt them to move on to that next step, and make sure you know what that next step is, what that next goal is, both so that you're designing around that, but you're also testing the effectiveness of that. Did they truly advance to that? At what speed did they advance to that next step? And again, getting back to that data focused approach to it. Always looking at what you're doing around that, especially as you get into direct mail campaigns, which oftentimes have a a significant cost involved with it, which obviously you want to make sure that you're doing and doing well. But yeah.
Yeah. And I think I love what you just brought up too, because if you're truly using data to inform these decisions, hopefully that's helping to kind of de-silo your organization. Like sales and marketing have to be aligned in order for this to work. And so if you're both looking at the data separately, or you're looking at different metrics, whatever, that's going to not set you up for very great success. So making sure that you have a full company approach to these campaigns, and the flip is great and all of that, and then you're truly looking at how each touch point is performing, it's key.
Yeah, and I mean, I think support and success is right up there with it as far as crucial parts of the process and touches with the customers, where this content, and in particular, opportunities to send direct mail pieces, around that success retention, side of things is particularly effective for a lot of organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this was a very timely question from the audience, because we're just going to cover that. So one of the big hurdles that we saw in 2020 was all of a sudden the data we had for people wasn't necessarily useful anymore because no one was in the office. So I know Jason has some key talking points on this as well, but for us, we had to figure out how to get people's address. And at first people were a little hesitant to like, can we send people's home addresses? What does that look like? I don't want to interfere on like personal versus work life. Well, I'm thrilled to say we've come to the point where people are past that and they're willing to send to everyone's homes. And so the best way we have found is to simply ask. So we've created landing pages for a lot of our customers where they just collect people's preferred addresses. And we've had great success with sending to people's home addresses from that. So Jason, how have you guys dealt with this? I know it's been a challenge
Yeah,
for
I mean,
everybody.
as somebody that's dealt with both sending and been a recipient of stuff on your side, I can tell you, it's effective to have people ask for those addresses. And I mean, it makes sense. Like somebody tells you, hey, I want to send you something nice. All you got to do is give me your address. Like not many people are going to balk at that.
Right.
And so, and it's been a super effective way of dealing with it and tackling it. But you know, obviously not related to sending physical packages, but we've dealt with this a lot on our side, on the data side of it as well, in particular with work mobile numbers. So you know, work mobile numbers for us, I mean, one, you know, because we gather all of our data from our own first party data sources, it's given us the ability to be able to pull, you know, really detailed contact information like mobile numbers. And there's a reason why we have the highest rate of coverage of mobile numbers of any of the data providers out there. But it was really interesting. Pre-COVID, that was sort of a nice to have, you know, kind of cool that you guys have that data. Post-COVID, like that's become essential to the point where like we win a lot of deals just because of that. And I mean, so much so, like we did a study not too far into COVID with one of our partners, ScaleX, and they took a variety of different types of work numbers. So, you know, switchboards, direct dial desk phones, mobile numbers, stuff like that. And they found a 7 times higher connection rate dialing mobile numbers than they did desk phones or switchboards. It was really interesting. Like there was still a little bit of higher connection rate dialing direct dial desk phones, but the connection rates on that had slipped to almost as bad as switchboards.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, whether you're sending directly, whether you're trying to call, whatever those channels are, everybody's had to really adjust to, you know, where people are working and the fluid environment that we're in right
Yeah, and I think that's only going to continue. I mean, who knows what the future holds, but remote work, I think, is here to stay, at least in some capacity. So making sure we're addressing that is super important.
Yeah, and Michael was asking, you know, are people annoyed that you're contacting them on their cell phones? So one thing that's unique with us and good to hit on, you'll note that I said work mobile number. So we actually distinguish our mobile numbers that we have from a personal mobile number and a work mobile number. And what does work mobile mean? Work mobile means that, and again, this goes back to the fact we gather all of our data from our own first party sources. That means we've seen that mobile number in a work context. So we've seen that in a business card that somebody has scanned. We've seen that in an email signature that we've parsed. We've seen that in an event lead scanner that we provided the back end off of. So we've seen that mobile number being used in a work context. And so that we're able to separate that out versus just a personal mobile number that we happen to have information around as well. So obviously, you know, surprises should be relatively few and far between if they're sharing that in a work context.
That makes total sense.
So, all right, you know, like I said, did an entire webinar last week on virtual events, but talk to me about how you guys have been helping out with these, Sam.
Yeah, so obviously in-person events are a thing of the past and will stay that way for the next few months at least. So we've actually sent out quite a few kits like this. This is one we did personally, but we had one customer that said, you know, they had 30, okay, so of the people that received a kit, 70% actually went to the webinar, which is really pretty great. And then this is a really cool kit because it has kind of this event passport. So it kept people engaged throughout the entire event. And at the end, if you filled in this card and sent it back, you were entered to win a pair of AirPod Pros. So, you know, these are just ways that you can continue that in-person engagement. This stays on your desk after the event's over, so you're consistently reminded of how great the event was. And you know, as I mentioned, people have gotten really creative. We're doing wine tasting kits, we're doing all sorts of kits just to kind of help that engagement, help bring people together, and do our best to have these events because I miss them. I mean, so how about you guys? What have you learned?
Yeah, I mean, we were a case study of people affected by this stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
the week or two that everything really started hitting home and everything started getting canceled and stuff like that, we had a half dozen events over the next 30 days that we were sponsoring, had already done booth designs, had booked travel
Yeah.
reservations, like you name it. So we were as affected by it as really you could get. And then we've done a lot of virtual events over the last year as well. The virtual events have been really kind of hit or miss for us. And getting engagement, getting attendance, stuff like that is really, the challenge with it. And so you really got to, you've got to do a lot more pre-event work. You've also got to do a lot more post-event work around
Yeah.
these. And stuff like you're talking about with the value adds to it to really drive engagement and interest around it's really, really effective. Another thing to keep in mind and take away, and this was really interesting as I was doing the webinar last week, where we were working off of a lot of stuff that our partner had done a study and survey around. Um, uh, Close to half of the companies surveyed indicated that they did not plan, not talking over the short term, did not plan over the long term to ever return to their pre-COVID investment in in-person events. And so I think just like work from home, in-person events, like that entire landscape has changed. It's changed permanently.
Yep.
Not saying it's going to stay where it is now, but the idea that it's just going to bounce back to where it was, I don't think it's going to happen. And so a lot of these lessons that we're learning out of this, people are going to have to continue to learn these best practices and what's worked within this because the landscape has really changed across the board.
Very much so.
Cool.
Well, we don't have much time, but we do have a few questions. One is, you probably want to answer. So are you like Zoom Info?
Yeah, so short answer to that, yes, we are a direct competitor to Zoom Info. The primary difference being that all of our data that is published in our portal is 95% accurate human verified data. So you can really go one of two ways at it. Building a database, you can focus on breadth of data and how much coverage you have. Which means that you've got to lean heavier on machine processing and algorithms, or you can focus on data quality and reliability, which is the way that we've gone with it. And then Blake's asking, when messaging or emailing prospects, how have you approached subject headers to get the most engagement? Is there a process that works best for you? I can speak really quickly on that, and then interested to hear yours, Sam, on your other side. Email headers, I think, like everything, it really gets back to that personalization, that segmentation, stuff like that. So the more that you can hit upon that or allude to it in an email header, or whatever is going to be most visible based off of what medium you're sending, is going to give you more engagement, get people to pay attention more and stuff like that. Because it shows that you've obviously done your due diligence, that you put in the time and the effort, that you're not just doing spray and pray and stuff like that. And then again, that's where being able to segment at scale and personalize at scale can become so powerful, because you don't have to do it on an individual one-off basis to make sure that it's personalized. You can do it at the company, at the industry, at the geographic level, at the persona level, so that you're doing personalization, but you're doing it at scale.
Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, I would just add to that, as you said, use your data. Testing is kind of the best process I found. So personalize it as much as you can. But then the good news about email is you can A/B test with, very, very small to little cost involved, which I think is great. And then I would use, for direct mail purposes, I would use that data and campaign data that you've collected throughout the rest of it to inform your direct mail messaging as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, obviously a lot easier and a lot quicker to scale things up through like email campaigns, calling campaigns, stuff like that, and then apply those lessons to your direct mail campaigns.
Yep, absolutely.
Cool. Sol, I got your message about trial and pricing. I will have a member of my team follow up with you directly, and they can answer questions like that, get you scheduled for a demo, all of that stuff. And then, of course, you can feel free to reach out to me if you need any additional help or assistance. But I'll have a team member reach out to you shortly, and we can get the ball rolling on that side of things. All right. Well, we're a few minutes over. Give you guys one last chance to drop anything in here for myself or Sam. Like I mentioned, both of our contact information are on this last slide here. It'll be available on the recap page, and then you can also reply to the email that's going to have the link to the recap if you have anything additional for myself or Sam. But I don't see anything else coming through. So, Sam, we can go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you so much
Yeah,
for being on here with me. This has been a pleasure.
my pleasure, truly. And thank you all for attending and your time. I know there's a lot of webinars out there, so we appreciate you hanging out with us for a few minutes. So hopefully it was well with your time, and we look forward to hearing from you.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jason.